Hello there, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me today. Here we are back in Planet Zoo and we have something new starting here. I'm going to say straight away, this is not going to be for everyone. This is a zoo project with a difference in as much as there are not going to be any animals. It's not going to be a zoo. This is a building project. So I completely appreciate that some of you might just want to tune out straight away because there's not going to be animal habitats in this series. So this is something that I've wanted to do for a while. In fact, I wanted to do this back when Planet Coaster was first out and I just never got round to it. And that is to try and build a town within the game with all the typical buildings that you find in a hustle bustle of a town, you know, just everything you can imagine, you know, supermarkets, houses, shops, cafes, restaurants, petrol stations, all this sort of thing. You know, I want to try and build a town basically. Now Planet Coaster would be the better choice for it because it has got a lot more building pieces in the game, but graphically Planet Zoo is far more advanced and it's the current game, and so that's what I want to use. It's going to be a bit more of a challenge, I think, but the reason I've decided to do it now is because of the latest expansion pack. The European pack has added quite a few nice pieces to the game. Some of them are laid out over here. Some of these pieces are pre-existing pieces, but for example they put lovely things like these arches in here, these nice stone pillar pieces. These are amazing. These I don't know what these are classed as. What are they? European edge ornament. I mean, those are just fantastic pieces. Plus some of these other pieces I think are new as well, various archways and things. So I think there's a lot of potential now for building design. So there we go. So that's going to be this project. I don't know how quickly it's going to be released. I have already done a few buildings, so yes, you know, there's going to be a few episodes ready to go straight away, but I don't know how quickly I will be able to do this project compared to my habitat project, because to be honest it takes a bit longer actually to do buildings than it does to do animal habitats. I'm finding because I want to go in a lot of detail on these buildings, as I hope you will see and appreciate. So there we go. So that's my introduction over. So let's crack on with the first episode. So this that you can see here, this is my first building, which is going to be the City Hall, or as we say in England, the County Hall. So most big towns will have one of these, and it's kind of a central parliament building where, you know, government council members and things gather and have meetings and eat donuts and all that sort of stuff. So that's what I'm going for first. I thought that would make a good central building to have built first. So this is the basic structure that I've gone with. I've gone with the brick, and the reason I've gone with brick and then this limestone down here is because of some of the new details that they've added in the latest pack, which you'll get to see soon. I just wanted the opportunity to use them on the first building that I do. I'll explain that as and when I get to them in the build. Now what I tend to do when I'm doing a building in this game is this: I lay out all the pieces on the ground that I think I might want to use in the building, and it just makes the process much easier. I can really see what's available, and so as I'm designing stuff I can just come over here, grab the piece and add it on. This is a very good technique to use when you're trying to build something like this. So there we go. So that's our first stage, basic shape of the building. So let me load up my next save point and explain to you my thoughts behind the building and how I got started with it. Right, so I've moved on a fair bit here actually. So I've made the building taller, as you can see. I've added another layer. I wanted it to look quite grand. You know, certainly in England here, our council buildings are usually very old buildings and they're very impressive, lots of ornate stonework. So with the doorway here, let me just come in here and I can show you what pieces I've been using. So it's a basic stone doorway. And then a couple of these nice stone pieces. You've got the archway here. This is one of the new pieces that I've used to make the bottom of the archway here. This is the bridge platform stone. So it's a slightly different colour to this stone, but because it's a column, I think I can get away with having it be a different colour. And then just a couple of these nice classical stone pieces in the middle here. And then these pieces are fantastic, these stairways. And I've just used 2 of them. This one obviously is just sunken into the wall a little bit here. Just to make this very impressive stairway up to the front entrance. Really glad they've put these in. These are just amazing pieces. I don't really know how they'll be used in the game. I think it will be possible. I assume the angles are correct so you can actually get a pathway underneath them. I think that's the idea. So at some point I'll try and use them in one of my zoos. But for now, they just made a perfect stairway for this. Windows, I've gone a bit over the top with the windows, as in they're very ornate. This is what we do in England. We love our stonework. So this piece is a standard classical window, and then on either side of it I've put one of these are these new pieces that have come in. Let me just bring that out. So it's one of those pieces, and I've just turned it sideways and sunk it in there. So there's one of them on either side, creating this kind of a nice surround. And then you've got one of these triangular pieces at the top, and then just a couple more of these ornate stone pieces, top and bottom, to finish it off. And it creates this whole surround, and I love it. I think it looks really nice. It looks very ornate, very old, which is the look I was going for. And then up here it's a little bit simpler with top windows. Tends to be that in England. You get the most ornate ones are at ground level, or certainly level with the doorway in this case, and then the top ones would be smaller and they would be slightly less ornate. So up here you've got the round windows, you've got a basic arched surround, a couple of little pillars in here, and then I've actually put a flower box at the bottom. I thought it worked quite nicely having a flower box there. I don't know what's going on with this camera, it's really annoying me. There we go, that's better. Yeah, so this is a flower pot at the bottom with one of these small grate pieces, the flower pieces here as well. And then because this was soil under here, I've just duplicated the flower box backwards a few times to cover it up. But yeah, I think that looks quite nice actually. And then this is essentially going to be the basement. In fact, in the end there is actually another level down underneath. So these windows are very basic because this is sort of ground level. And I think probably in real life the whole building would be slightly sunk. You get a lot of buildings, certainly in London, you get a lot of buildings where this level would be sort of half hidden underground, and then there would be sort of a sunken ground area along the side of the building that you can look down to allow light to get into these windows. I'm not sure if I'm explaining that very well, but unfortunately in this game it's very hard to do that sort of thing. And I wanted to add another little doorway down underneath here, which you'll see in a minute. And so I've left this as the ground level. But yeah, you'll see by the end that it works. And then around the side I've just duplicated the same design. I didn't want it on every one because it just looked a bit over the top. So I've just gone with sort of occasional windows here and there around the outside. Yeah, I think that's coming along quite nicely. I wasn't at this point. I wasn't too sure what I was doing with the roof. I'll explain what I end up doing and why when I get to it. So let's load up the next point and see what I did next. Right, so I've started doing a bit more detailing here. I wanted to get a door down under here, so you can see I've had to dig out the ground, and I put another one of these staircases in here, and then another one at the bottom here, leading down to this underground door down into the basement. This is another very English thing. A lot of our old buildings, or basically all of our old buildings, anything from the sort of the Victorian age, had basements. It was a very popular thing for all buildings to have back then, usually used for coal storage, because that's how most of our houses were powered back then, was by burning a big boiler down in the basement, and then pipes would carry the heated steam up around the house and heat all the other rooms. But these days they would have been converted into usable spaces. So I wanted to put that in, so I've put that down there. It's very tricky trying to maneuver it all, and some of this does change actually as I build more. But yeah, trying to get these pieces in, particularly this large stairway piece here. I've then ended up with another one here because I wanted to continue this this patterned stonework to here. So I've had to put another one there entirely under the ground. Hang on, let me zoom out so you can see it's completely there and hidden. The only bit that's showing is just this little bit of stone here. These are obviously meant to be the sort of the foundations. So you've got this big plinth bit here with the brickwork going up, and then I've capped them off on each side with these small pieces here. The idea being that that's kind of the main foundation for the house, which is why you then got this huge bit here. Because I decided to put one of these new pieces, this plaque on. Again, this is something you find certainly in London. You find this on a lot of old houses where they have a little plaque telling you about the building and when it was built. Now I couldn't quite work out how to edit this plaque properly to get more information on there. I tried typing stuff in and all that showed up was the date, so I just randomly chose 1779. But yeah, they look cool, these plaques, so they're quite helpful little pieces. And then coming up here, you've got the staircase coming in. Obviously I've put the surrounding tiles down as well. So that worked out pretty nicely actually, having the staircase leading up to there. I decided I wanted to cover the hole at the bottom of this staircase because it looks good here having the arch. It makes sense to have the archway because you're walking down underneath it, but I didn't want it here, so I filled the gap in with one of these pieces, and then there's just a little piece in here, just one of these little cap pieces just turned sideways to cover in the gap there. Got the same on this side, although it does change actually this side. So I put this bit of fencing in because obviously health and safety in England is quite extreme, so if there was any sort of hole like this, it would have a bit of fencing to stop people falling down through there. But that does disappear, as does this actually in the end. So there's a couple more changes that do happen to this area here. You can see obviously it was a bit tricky getting this sort of sunken door area here, and using these pieces here to make the roof pattern as well was a little bit tricky, but you know, I managed to get it looking half decent in the end. And so the other thing that's obvious here is that I've left a gap here, and that is because there is going to be a raised flower bed here with a tree in it. Which again is something that you see a lot in this country. Whenever, back in the day when all these big buildings were built, whenever there was a courtyard like this, there would always be some sort of flower bed or something here, again with nice ornate stonework around it, and probably benches. It'd be like a little courtyard seating area. So that was my plan, to put some sort of raised flower bed into there. So there we go. So it's coming along quite nicely. I'm really happy with how this front bit turned out. I thought it looks exactly how I wanted it to look, which is surprising actually, because I'm not very good at doing buildings. This is my first attempt at really doing detailed buildings in this game, certainly ones that aren't shelters for animals anyway. So yeah, I've had a lot of fun with it, and it's come out really well, but at this stage I was very happy with where I'd got to. Right, so let's move on, shall we? Okay, so here we are, quite a lot more detailing done here now. So we have our roof on. So what I did first, I went around the top, and you'll often find in England with these old buildings, the roof is quite over the top, and sometimes it's wider and bigger than the rest of the building. So that's what I've done here. I've made this top piece out of these amazing pieces, these limestone temple pieces. So those go all the way around the top, and they're fantastic. They really are. They're so grand and over the top. Clearly you can see I've just randomly left a couple floating in the air there. But yeah, they're very over the top, but it's exactly the look I wanted for this building. And then I've just done a little bit of detailing on the front. I put this lion head on. In England, the lion is kind of our thing. It's our symbol of power and authority and all that. So you often find lions either maybe not quite so much like this, but you'll certainly find them as statues on sort of brickwork. Certainly out the front, you'll see I do actually put a couple of lion statues out the front here. So yeah, so I couldn't resist putting this massive lion head above the door. It just worked perfectly. It was exactly the right size for the building, so I couldn't really resist that. Just a little bit of decoration up on the top here. We often have our coat of arms and things like that on old buildings, so a little bit of carving I thought worked quite nicely there, obviously just matching the bit above the door as well. Very simple lettering, so this would be new. It's one thing this game is lacking is lettering. It's a shame. They really ought to add a lot more different styles of lettering into the game. And I know there are people out there that are really good at doing custom lettering, but it's not my thing, I'm afraid. I haven't got the patience for doing that. So I am just going to be using the in-game stuff, I'm afraid. But that's fine. I mean, originally, if this was originally a county hall, then it would have probably been carved in stone up here. But the story I'm going with is that this actually used to be a zoo building of some sort, and it's recently been converted into a county hall. And when I come around to showing you what I do out the front here, you'll understand why that is the backstory for this building. It was sort of forced upon me, but you'll understand in a minute. So county hall, nice modern lettering. That's a later addition onto the building. With regards to the roof, it's a flat roof, and there'll be a lot of flat roofs, I think, in this town. And you do find that actually in towns. I live in a town in England which is it's a very old town, quite a big one. It's not a city, it is just a town, but it has been around for a long time, and most of the building tops around the actual town centre are flat. I don't know why that is, I'll be honest. I think it was just the style back in the Victorian era. I think that was just how they built buildings. I think it's probably just easier to make flat roofs than it was to do slanted ones. But actually, because of the way the game works, it's much easier to do flat roofs than slanted ones. If you're doing a basic building like this, which is a normal shape, you can do slanted quite easily. But as soon as you start doing things at weird angles, you can't do slanted roofs on these buildings in the game. They don't work. They don't match up. So you'll see later on I do a building which sits at a sort of a quirky angle, and there's just no physical way that you could do a slanted roof on it. It just wouldn't work. So I went with the flat roof here. I put a little entranceway here, sort of a backstage place, so you can have access to the roof, because there would have to be some access up onto the roof, because there'd be things up here, for maintenance and whatever that you would need. So I made a very basic brick entranceway here with some of this lead roofing, or copper. No, it's copper, isn't it? Copper turns green when it's weathered, I think. I think that's what it's probably meant to be. That's what I want it to look like anyway. So this is just basic bricks. You've got some of these sort of temple brickwork pieces down the side. There's a couple of bits of edging on here just to cover up the sides of the roof pieces, and adorn a light. So very simple, just a little backstage entrance that you can't quite see from down here. If you were back here, then you could see it, but that's absolutely fine. And I did do a little bit of detailing up here as well. I just put a little a water grate along the edge there. A little bit of drainage so you don't end up with too much flooding water sitting up on the roof. And our flower border is in, and very simple. This is the same piece, I think. This limestone temple cornice that I've used up on the roof, so that's been duplicated down here, obviously just sunk into the ground a bit. And then you have one of these beautiful big oak trees out the front of the building. So this ages the buildings. Obviously oak trees, certainly one this size, this would probably be at least a couple of 100 years old, an oak tree this size. We have a lot of oak trees in England, and certainly ones like this, they have special protection orders on, so they're not allowed to be chopped down. So anything that would be done, whether the building is moved, modernised, rebuilt, this tree would have to stay exactly where it is and be preserved, which is fantastic, obviously, because that's part of our heritage. These trees are older than us. These things are hundreds of years old. So you don't want to be chopping them down just because you want to build a new building somewhere. There's quite strict rules in England about trees. So this tree has grown up in this flower bed, and I've just put a couple of nettles poking out here. It needs a bit of weeding, it needs some maintenance. No flowers around here. You wouldn't get a lot of things that grow underneath an oak tree like this. There are certain plants. In England you find a plant called cyclamen around the base of trees, but we don't have them in Planet Zoo, so I can't put them on. None of the plants that are in Planet Zoo would grow properly under here, so I've just left it blank and just put a few weeds in there growing up. So yeah, there we go. So that's our flower bordering and our roof done. I think that's coming along quite nicely. I don't think I made any changes down here yet. No, that was all stayed the same by the looks of it. So yeah, okay. There we go. Yeah, I'm really happy with how this was coming along at this point, and the tree certainly sets it off. And I love that the tree is actually just brushing the building here as well, just to really show that the tree is the boss here. The tree is growing, and it will grow where it wants. It's not going to get cut back, because you can't even prune these trees without permission. You need a special license and special permission from the government to even chop a branch off of an oak tree in England, because they are protected under law, which is very cool, because I think a single oak tree, an oak tree can house 300 different species of animals in a single tree. So that's, birds, mammals, insects. So 300 different species might be calling that tree home. So even just dropping off a single branch is not allowed under law, which is great. So let's move on. Let's see what I did next. So some pretty big changes here, as you can see. I've made a fence around the outside. I love this. This worked so well. This gate is amazing. This is exactly the sort of gate that you would get around a governmental building in England. It's so over the top and ornate, but it would be exactly like this. It would be grand. It would be painted black and gold. And it would be maintained to perfection, because we're quite obsessed with this sort of thing around our big political buildings. So that archway has gone in. However, this is the reason why I've given this building a backstory, because it says zoo up here and it has elephants. And unfortunately, this is the only gate in the game like this, so I had to use this one. So the backstory is that this gate would have been originally the entrance to part of the zoo. And hence why there are also lion statues on each side of it. And that the gate has been reused and repurposed for this government building. So whether the gate was here originally or if it was somewhere else, it doesn't really matter, but that's the backstory for the gate and why it's being used now as an entranceway to our government county hall. So there we go. And then the rest of this is pretty straightforward. It's an in-game gate piece. Let me just show you that. So that's the classic fence piece, again painted pure black. Then you've got these lovely dry stone wall top pieces down here as the base. These corner pieces are two pieces in one. So it's a dry stone wall buttress, and there are actually two of them on top of each other, and one of them is turned 180 degrees from the other one, so that you get this brick pattern on all four of the corners. And then the top is just this concrete pillar column, and I've just copied that over. I think there's sort of 8 of them filling up that altogether, because yeah, there's 1 in each corner and then 4 in the middle, so there's quite a few pieces to make that. But I wanted these to be nice and thick and a bit grand and over the top, because that's how we do things in England with these old buildings. Everything is bigger than it needs to be and more impressive. And then I've stuck the 2 statues on the top here. This is a very common sight in England. We have lion statues all over the place. Because that's our thing, isn't it? If you follow football, you'll know that 3 lions is the thing. That's sort of the football team's nickname, are the 3 lions. So yeah. What I've also done inside, let's actually just show you the fencing goes all the way around the outside, and then there's the pavement that I've done around the outside, which is this temple floor. Obviously, it's a ceiling, but it's used as a pavement here. And then the outside bit is the North African plaster bricks, and I've used that to make the curbing around the outside there. That is actually a separate building as well. So that goes all the way around the outside, and then out the front here you've got these lovely ornate lampposts. And again, this is something that you find around our governmental buildings. Rather than modern light lampposts, they will maintain and put these old ones in. It's sort of a tradition thing that around our buildings there would be these old ornate lampposts, but then down the side here there'll probably be the modern ones. It's just around the front here, because you want everything at the front to look old and original. So that's why you've got these nice ornate lampposts here. Few of them inside here as well, so you've just got them on the 4 posts of the stairway here. On this side of the stairway, I changed this, and this actually changes again in a minute. I wasn't happy with the cover here and the fence covering this gap here, so I put some of these roof pieces in here. This is that same limestone temple piece just sunk into the ground. So I put a couple of them in to see what it looked like, and I was never really happy with it, so that changes again in a minute. However, what I've also done is put some of these new details on. So this is what I was talking about earlier, and why I wanted it to be a brick building where the bottom layer was covered with sort of a plaster. Because of these new pieces here, this piece here, surface damage decal, that is my new favourite piece in the game. Look at that. The detail in that is phenomenal. I mean, those bricks look so much better than these old bricks, don't they? With all the little chips and creases and bumps in them. They just look fantastic. Look at how smooth these old brick pieces are compared to that. So these new pieces, there's a few of them in the game. I've got one there. Let's see where else I've used them. There's one, look at that on the corner there. It just looks like the plaster's flaked off. It's so good. So good, and that is what makes these buildings work. Little details like that make it look realistic. You've got a nice big one there where loads of the plaster has got chipped off. I mean, it looks so realistic, doesn't it? I absolutely love these pieces. I've also put an emergency exit on the back. These buildings would always have at least 2 doors, if not 3, so this one has actually got 3 now because it's got that basement door as well. And I think there's a little bit more damage down here. Another one of these lovely corner pieces where the plaster is chipped off of the brickwork. They're just brilliant, absolutely. I think everyone is in agreement that those are some of the best pieces they added in this latest expansion. And there's quite a few different types of them as well, those decal pieces, and they really just make the difference. So yeah, absolutely fantastic. I love them. So there we go. So that is almost done now. I think I've just got one more save point for this building. I can't quite remember what I do next. I think I do a bit of detailing actually out on the pathway here as well. But the building is virtually done. Like I said, I think I do change this little bit down the side here as well. So let me just load up the last save point and we shall see the finished product. So here we have our finished product, and there are just a few minor changes. So first off, let's come inside here, and you'll see that I ended up putting a flower bed in here. This is a very British thing. If we have a space somewhere, generally we put flowers in it. We are obsessed with flowers in this country, and it's great. It's a good thing. I'm a gardener myself, so I definitely approve of putting flower beds in. So it's just a simple wooden framework here and just a row of flowers. And that would literally, in this country, that would have been put here as a health and safety measure to stop people falling through this hole. But it's fine. It plugs the gap, adds a bit of colour to the courtyard. So I'm all up for that. That's absolutely great. Don't mind that at all. I changed the colour of the pavement pieces. They were just the wrong shade. And our pavements generally in the country, and our curbs are usually this sort of grey and then a lighter grey for the curb. So that's what I've done there. So I've also curved the corners. I think that was done in the last edit. So these corner pieces are now curved as well, and obviously you can see I've started putting the beginnings of a road in around the outside here as well. I've also just made these small drains to go out here on the road. These are, again, everywhere in this country. You get we have a very good underground network of drains in this country, and so you find these on every single road in the entire country. They're just water drains along the edge. So I'll try and remember to continue putting them all along the edge. I've also done a bit of detailing. This is another one of these lovely pieces. Look at this detailing here. This is another little decal piece. So this is surface damage, and it's just, look at that. I mean, you can just place it wherever you want, and it just so good, so good. So there's various ones of those scattered around. You see another one here, all along the pathway. You've got some little chips in here. There's a whole load down by the corner here. They just look amazing, and they're so realistic because these pavements are very old. And you can't go anywhere in this country without finding chipped bits of pavement. It's just what happens to them over time. Most of our pavements are very old, especially in London. where a building like this would be. These bricks, over the years, bits and pieces will get replaced, but there'll always be little chips and scratches and cracks. So yeah, so there's various bits of those detailing all along this pathway. You just find a few more here. There's probably some more. Yeah, there's another one here. So all the way along, the more you look, the more you find lots of little cracks and things. That's the sort of level of detail that I want to go into in this project. And then just along this pathway here, it's quite a wide pathway. And again, this is something we do a lot in England. I know I keep saying this, but obviously I live in England, and so this is what I'm basing this on. But in England, whenever we have a wide pathway, generally we put these flower beds in. Because we just love trees and flowers in England. It's what we do, and it makes everything look nice. Especially around a building like this, they would definitely have some trees growing. So there's just a few basic flower beds here. These are poplar trees in here, I believe. Yeah, the black poplar. Again, just a bit of soil at the bottom. I've varied it up, so there's a couple of weeds in that one. That one's cleared. A couple of weeds in that one, and this one's got some grass growing in it, in fact, as a weed. So yeah, just so that each one is slightly different. And the trees themselves are the same, but I've just twisted them differently so they look slightly varied. There we go. I think that was all the changes that I made in this cut. So that is our county hall finished, and I was so happy with that. I think that turned out better than I expected, I'll be honest. Especially as my first building, my first proper sort of non-zoo building. I was very happy with that. So it was a pretty good start. Oh yeah, sorry, one other thing I did do, because I changed what was going on down here, I did just put in one more bit of this decal down here. I wanted this, because this is a backstage bit that the public can't see, I just thought it might have been a bit more neglected. So I put another one of these lovely decal pieces on here to show the cracked brickwork. Yeah, so there we go. Loved doing this project. So let me know what you think. I mean, it's like I say, I appreciate that this whole series of videos might not be for everyone. Maybe it'll inspire you to do your own sort of non-zoo buildings, I don't know. But it's a bit of a vanity project for me. It's just something that I want to do for myself. And hey, if some of you guys want to appreciate it as well, then that's just a bonus for me, really. But I'm certainly having a lot of fun with this project so far. So there we go. There's our county hall. Please do let me know what you think, and whether you're actually going to continue watching this series, whether you have any interest in it at all. I guess in the end I might just be making these things for myself. Who knows? But yeah, we'll see. So great. Thank you for tuning in and sticking with me. If you have stuck with me to the end of the video, I do appreciate that it is a bit of an odd series, but yeah, hopefully you can enjoy it with me. If you have liked it, please do leave a like, because that will help share the video out to more people, which is only going to be a good thing for everyone involved. So hopefully you can come and join me again. Like I said, I don't know how regularly this series is going to happen. We'll have to wait and see. It is quite time consuming to do these builds. But yeah, we'll see. They'll come when they come, basically. So yeah, there we go. So thank you again, and hopefully I will see you soon. Until then, do take care of yourselves. Bye.